This episode is brought to you by Bureau, our title sponsor. With 8 vibrant locations in Miami's best neighborhoods, Bureau is the perfect co-working place to work, network, and thrive alongside other entrepreneurs, creatives, professionals, and local businesses. Find your space at bureaumiami.com.
Cheers.
Cheers again.
So we had to start over because I don't really know what I'm doing here. I might have hit the wrong button, but we're here with Anthony Yurre from Bilzin Sumberg.
Hey, we do another cheers here?
Oh yeah, we got to cheers. It's mandatory.
Mandatory cheers.
Officially the second cheers, but
Yeah, it's all good. We might look like we know what we're doing, but I assure you we do not.
We definitely do not know what we're doing. So welcome. We're really excited to have you. We're going to talk about law today and zoning.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff.
well,
That's right.
that's where you make the money, guys.
Is that where that's true. It is where you make
Everywhere
money.
else is where you spend it.
Yeah. Well, welcome. We're sipping some scotch here. Anthony's drinking a little Bendersky. We were just talking about Felix Bendersky, which was a guest of ours.
Shout out Felix.
Shout out Felix. He's a big F&B guy, so we're going to connect the both of you.
Yeah,
See if you guys.
I was saying I have a deal I'm JVing in Tampa, and we have about 25,000 square feet of mixed use. Part of that's retail.
Okay.
So maybe we'll call him. We want a nice F&B tenant down there.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
He's a beast. He's got all the connections here for F&B for sure.
What are you doing in Tampa? Tell us about this.
JV'd into a product called Miles. It's a co-living, 160 units, fully furnished in Ybor City, and we also have about 25,000 square feet of mixed use, office, ground floor retail. It's a product that I love. The co-living, fully furnished, really well thought out and curated. Applying like a hotel lodging, high-end hotel lodging architect to this product, and then everything's fully furnished. So you move in, TV's there, bed's there, all the utilities are included. So
Are these like the units that are like 5 bedrooms with a shared kitchen and living area?
some of them have shared kitchen, but they all have their own. I mean, you can do. So I do a lot of co-living for clients. This is just a deal that I happen to JV in. You remind me of it because it's an OZ deal. That's why we were talking earlier. And the only thing you have to bring is really your toothbrush. You get a bed, mattress. We get new mattress tops when people move in. We even have utensils in the kitchen. It's almost like showing up to a hotel that you live in. And so far, so good.
Are there separate bathrooms for everyone or shared bathrooms?
No, separate bathrooms.
But the kitchen is the common area.
kitchen has a common area, yeah. And we're getting like $6.50 a foot in rent.
Dang.
So
And does those work? People like that? I'm always skeptical of those.
Where have you seen them work?
well, we're almost fully stabilized right now, but I think it has its place. It's a very niche product.
Who is the demographic that tends to
Attract.
Younger professionals,
straight out of college?
straight out of grad school. A lot of them straight out of grad school. You get a lot of people that are residents. At the end of the day, this might be their pied-à-terre, their first spot in whatever city it is. The same thing happens in Miami. It's their first place that they find in Miami, and lets them get a foot in the door and then figure out where they want to be. So, is there more turnover? Yes, but you're also charging significantly. You're doing better on the efficiency with the rents. So it has its trade-offs.
But what's a tip? You said 5 bedrooms. There's one.
Yeah,
bedroom.
they're 4-bedroom. They're called 4 bedrooms, but they're really 4-bedroom units.
Okay.
So you have a shared common area with a kitchen, living room, and then each person has their own individual. Think of it like a studio with their own bathroom.
Yep.
And you can pay extra if you want an extra fridge or a kitchenette in your room, but for the most part, everything comes included, and all they got to do is show up with their clothes. They just don't want to. Imagine you're graduating college. You don't want to go move back home with mom and dad. You got a job in a new place, and you're just trying to figure out where you're at. You don't want to commit to anything too expensive, but it's all about location. And they walk in the place and they say, okay, do I feel like I'm getting value for what I can afford? Does it feel good? Is it close to where I'm working? Okay, perfect, great. And then the co-living component almost becomes its own amenity because they're young, and it helps them meet people and expand their network.
But you don't get to choose your roommates.
You don't get to choose your roommates, or you could choose your roommates.
Yeah.
You can go in with a group. some
But you can just show up there with a toothbrush and
yeah, you can
enjoy
show and then you can't have the rooms are you can have it might get complicated if it's singularly habitated rooms, and then a girlfriend or a boyfriend moves in.
Oh yeah,
that gets a little complicated. So kind of people have to be wherever you move in. We have to figure out what that looks like, and then especially in some other projects, not this one, but others that I've worked on for clients, they might have like a 5-bedroom deal, and they could have, some of them have their own bathroom as an ensuite. Others will share a bathroom. So when you start sharing bathrooms,
that's when
that can get a little complicated.
it gets a little sideways there.
Yeah, and also I've been told the things that will cause the most friction are the bathroom and the temperature. So basically anything that could cause friction in your marriage,
it's co-living
think about
issue.
it's a co-living issue. I came to that, I go, wait a second, so the bathrooms are an issue. How about the temperature on the thermostat? They go, for sure, the temperature on the thermostat's the second biggest
And who's
thing.
responsible for cleaning the kitchens?
So you have a weekly cleaning service that we provide. The person
Gotcha.
comes,
Oh, that's cool.
cleans the kitchen, cleans the common area, cleans the bathrooms, and that's it.
It's kind of like Bureau where we're at right now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In a lot of
Co-working,
ways,
co-living.
Yeah, co-working, co-living.
I think on the next, well, so I have another project with a partner we're going to do ground up here in Miami. It's not co-living, but we're using, we're going to talk about Live Local a little bit. It's a Live Local deal. And my idea is to do all that. And then at the same time, provide them like turn down service. If these are young people that have probably never even made their bed in their life because mom and dad did it for them probably, unfortunately nowadays. And so, we'll offer like laundry and turn down service, and we'll do the laundry for them. We'll even do their beds for them. We don't care.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of
So you got a little bit of an
experimenting
entrepreneur streak in you too.
that. Yeah.
You're not just a lawyer.
No, I think you have to be entrepreneurial to be a lawyer because you have
Yeah.
to understand, all the facets of your client's business. My background is, my parents are Cuban, moved to this, a story of many people here, moved to Miami. And, when you were in Cuba, they just took everything for you. Basically, my grandparents had to put on 5 pairs of underwears, because they'll let you leave with the clothes you had.
Yeah.
And
So what year did your parents get here?
Well, my mom came first in the early 60s. My father came after the revolution. He was down there for Bay of Pigs. He doesn't tell the story very often of like the windows exploding because he lived close to that part of the island. But he came later on in the 60s. And so I was born here. I'm gringo numero uno.
Yep.
In the family.
You speak Spanish fluently?
Of course.
Yeah.
Falo Portuguese também.
Yeah.
My wife is Brazilian. There you go.
That's the good part of you right there, the Brazilian part.
Well,
I feel sorry for you in a lot of ways, actually.
The Portuguese is exhausting, but it's close enough to Spanish that if I shout out to FIU has a professional language program at their campus on Brickell, and when I started dating my wife seriously, I took professional business Portuguese for about a year and a half, and it allowed me to speak fluently. So if you come to Miami and you want to learn Spanish or any other language, the FIU program on Brickell's easy, and it's fantastic, and it's right next to where everybody works. But my family was always, to go back to it, my grandfather came, they took his land, he says, well, the first thing I'm going to do is buy a piece of real estate here in the United States because they can't take that away from you. So he bought a bunch of apartment buildings, so we've been in value-add rehab, since I was a kid. And then,
so you've been around real estate. It really started with your grandfather.
My grandfather,
Yeah.
he then went on and bought a radio station, so he used to own one of the big radio stations here in Miami. And then my parents would also dabbled in luxury spec houses they would build and sell. But truth be told, my mother was my family business is government. My mother was an employee at Miami-Dade County for 35 years.
What did she do there?
She started off as an RN, a registered nurse. That's her background. And then she started working at Jack Orr Senior Center, which is one of the county-owned facilities right by the river. And so I would spend all my school breaks, spring break and things like that, over at Jack Orr Senior Center with all the seniors that were there. There was one guy he used to be a carpenter. He would fix my skateboard. I mean, I remember this stuff like yesterday. I used to love to play bingo with them.
Where did you grow up here? What neighborhood did you grow up in Miami?
Well, I was born in a duplex that we still own next to Flagler Dog Track.
Oh, wow.
So I guess that's like Flagami area.
Uh-huh.
And then
That's where the casino is.
that's where the casino is now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Are they
off
still
of-
running Greyhounds there?
I don't think so. I don't think they've run Greyhounds since since we moved out of that house. It was a duplex actually, and we moved around.
So you grew up at a duplex there.
Well, we look when you graduated, when you're the child of the immigrants, as my father put it. He said you basically grew up on food stamps and you try to just study as fast as you can. So he graduated law school, I think, in like 18 months, which is absurd. And
Your dad did?
Yeah, and he went to St. Mary's University in Texas because they gave him money.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you decide to go to school in Texas? When I was thinking about going to law school, and he says, well, they gave me money, and that's where I went. And then and I had money for 18 months, so I graduated law school in 18 months.
So I'm sorry, your dad was born in Cuba though too.
Yeah.
And he came here. How old was he?
I don't know, probably like 7 or 8, something like that.
Oh,
Same
so he was
thing.
young. Okay.
Yeah, they were both young. But the moral of that story is, we are the beneficiaries of all that hard work. I don't have to deal with food stamps. I got the back end of it being born in a duplex. We still own it, and now we go back and we buy more multifamily.
So
in the area.
your dad had bought that duplex which you guys were living in.
My grandfather bought it.
Bought it.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Bought it as an.
Yeah.
Remember, think real
Yeah.
estate. He bought it. My parents couldn't even afford to buy the duplex. I think
Yeah.
the famous number he gave me was as he graduated as an attorney, working as a tax attorney, became a real estate attorney afterwards. I think he was making like $18,000 a year, and my mom was an RN, and she was making more money than he did.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe people don't like lawyers that much still today, but at
Probably
least
not.
we still. I told him at least I hope I do better than 18. 18 a year is tough. But anyways, born in that house and that duplex, still have it, and then. Because we're in real estate, my family's built some spec houses, and then one of them was in the Grove, and it was a beautiful house, and they couldn't bring themselves to sell it, and we grew up in the house, and it was unbelievable house. I always saw myself living in it when I grew up, and they ended up selling it, and they're like, no, we need this for ourselves.
So you're Coconut Grove boy.
I am a Grove guy. I went to
Yeah.
Columbus, but a lot of my friends are, from the area in the Grove, and the Grove's changed a lot. I think most people would say for the better, but still maintaining its character. I still go to Green Street all the time for breakfast.
Yeah, this place is solid.
Still solid.
Yeah.
So when did you move to the Grove?
Oh, we moved to the Grove. Let's see. So my dad was. So I told you my mom was in 35 years of the county, and then my father was an elected official. He was city Miami commissioner and vice mayor back when they were at large. There weren't any districts, so we had to live in the city of Miami. So we moved into another house somewhere over else. We lived in Flagami in a house for 3 or 4 years, and then I think I was probably like 10 or 12, something like that. We moved into the Grove. So
And I'm sorry, who did you say was a commissioner?
my old man, my dad,
Oh yeah, he was a commissioner.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
How long was he a commissioner for?
he was a commissioner for 2 terms, something like that.
Oh wow, for
Yeah.
the city of Miami.
City of Miami. Yeah.
All right.
It was interesting. Well, I didn't think about it at the time, but Francis Suarez's father was a mayor.
Yep.
So we all kind of grew up together running around the dais.
Are you and Francis about the same age?
Yeah, he's a year
Yeah.
older. He's a year older than
Okay.
I am. Yeah. So we would.
So give us some shit on some dirt on Francis.
I got nothing on
This is your
Francis.
moment right here. Come
Me
on.
and Francis grew up being lifeguards at a City of Miami Parks and Recreation camp.
Yeah.
So we helped. I'll give a positive. We helped start Shake a Leg in the Grove at their location. So we always liked being in the water, and it was a city-run program. So we would volunteer, and then ultimately both worked in that. But it was bizarre.
Did Francis go to Columbus too?
I think Francis went to Columbus, Belen, LaSalle. You had to ask him.
Oh, he went to all of them, huh?
He was
he was
just-
a shitty kid, huh?
No, he was just so heavily recruited for his basketball
Yeah,
skills.
right.
Because he would wear those special shoes that would give you the
bounce?
the extra bounce.
He got springs in his shoes.
Yeah, I could only wear them for like 5 minutes, and my calves would hurt. He would make fun. He would make fun of me. But he was a really big time basketball player, so he would move around a little bit because of that. But so today was City of Miami Commission, so I'm over there and I'm behind the dais and have my conversations, and it's still bizarre to me that when I was a kid, I was running. Me and Francis and a couple of the other guys, kids, were running around behind the dais, and we would sit on our dad's laps.
Yeah.
And it was like no big deal. Miami was a much smaller town. It was a little, I think, less formal then. And now, we're all grown up, and he's on that side of the dais. I'm on the other side of the dais. I think he's done
But
incredible.
you get what you want because you got dirt on him, right?
No, listen, I have zero dirt on him. I have all the respect in the world for him. Him, his family, his dad, his mom, his sisters. We all grew up together. His mom actually was a teacher at Sunset Elementary until like 2 years ago. She retired. So she happened to be my kids' teachers.
Oh, that's cool.
Talk about
full circle.
Yeah, look, Miami's a small town.
It is.
I always tell people all the time. I go, look, Miami's a small town with big buildings. Okay,
Yeah.
It's still the same small town. There's 1 degree of separation. So this is really a town where you build your reputation in drops and lose it in buckets. So if it's going to take a long time to build it up, just like anywhere else, but here you lose it faster. Because everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
Everybody has, like I said, 1 degree of separation. And, I think the good people that there's some people that, you grew up here with, you might not see them for 10 years, and you're just casually running into them every 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe every 10 years. And they're just, that their reputation is what it is. If you need something, you could call them at the drop of a hat. So it's still a small town like that, but obviously there's a lot more layers to it than it used to be. But yeah, government has been the family business. And my stepdad actually was a director of Miami-Dade County Water and Sewer and Durham.
Who was your stepdad?
John Renfro.
Okay.
He was a director of Durham, I think. One was 10 and the other one was 20 years. I think 20 years at WASDA, 10 years at WASDA, or vice versa. So yeah, I tried everything I could not to be a government attorney and not do land use and zoning. But, somehow I found myself on a hour-long phone call before I walked in here with, half of Department of Transportation, Public Works of the county trying to solve a roundabout. And I still think all my friends became doctors. We were all pre-med. God bless them. I call one all the time for my grandmother when she gets hurt. He's an orthopedic surgeon. So I call my grandmother's knee gets hurt. I got him to call. Somebody else has a pain somewhere else. I got that person to call. So it's great to have that network.
What a true Miamian. I got a guy.
Yeah, I got a guy. Exactly.
Real cheap.
But I'm the only one of that group that we all did pre-med, and I decided not to continue to go to med school.
Ben, you know what they say in real estate, if people don't know you, they're not doing business with you.
Exactly. That's why the Built World podcast works with top-of-mind public relations, because being a best-kept secret sure doesn't pay the bills.
Paula Uspa Abbott, the brains behind Top of Mind PR, is a former real estate journalist, so she knows exactly what makes the media pay attention.
And let's be real, getting in the press isn't just about bragging rights. It's about building credibility, landing deals, and making sure the right people know your name.
Whether it's top-tier media coverage, killer storytelling, or just making sure you're the one people think of first, Top of Mind PR has you covered.
Want to stand out? Hit up topofmind-pr.com or email info@topofmind-pr.com.
Because in real estate, if you're not visible, you're invisible. Ben, you and I are all about PropTech, and if there's one tool we absolutely cannot live without for a commercial real estate brokerage business at Gridline Properties, it's Vista.
Absolutely. Vista is incredible. We use it every single day, and we're always wondering, how do they do this? Every evening we get an email from them with real-time closed transactions. No more waiting around for months for the property appraiser to finally update.
Yeah, whether you're doing industrial, retail, office, land deals, they have every closed transaction. And it's not just the speed, Ben. The details are on point. Seller and buyer info, contact details, phone numbers, emails, everything is accurate.
It's hands down our top prospecting tool to farm for warehouse deals in Hialeah. Vista keeps us one step ahead always. It's also the best way to search for comps when putting together opinions of values for clients.
Head on over to Vista.com and use code BuiltWorld and get 30 days free access today. VIZZDA.com. But hold on, let's back this up a little bit here. So high school at Columbus, did you what kind of, you said you and Francis were doing what again?
So the city of Miami had at the time a Parks and Recreation camp at Coconut Grove on the Bay, and it was mostly dedicated towards sailing.
Okay.
So we were headquartered out of Varick Gym. Varick Gym's where Monty's is and that Starbucks. Mm-hmm. It's an old Coast Guard training building where they used to house a lot of the airboats that would land at Pan Am in City Hall. So it was like derelict and abandoned, and the city owned it, so they just kind of gave it to us. And there was an old boxing gym in there. I mean, it was not Class A amenities, to be certain.
But you guys were working.
We started there probably when we were like 8 or 9 years old. Myself, my brother, all our families, we went there. All the City of Miami employees' families. And it was essentially a program that you could get on the water and sail. And somehow we kept these boats afloat from when I was 8 doing it until I went to college. And there were all these other programs that were incredibly expensive through the private yacht clubs that are there. But the city put this together, and we would bring kids from all over the city to come, and their only opportunity to get in the water was there. So the Parks and Recs program for the city, for like Jose Marti Park, is where I started lifeguarding. We would bring the kids over from Jose Marti Park and take them sailing, and it was like, another planet for them.
So you were a lifeguard and you were taking the kids sailing. That was
nobody.
Yeah.
There were some trips to the hospital, but no fatalities, no fatalities, no fatalities. Some brushes with wildlife.
Yeah.
Occasionally a stingray would jump in the boat and people would freak out, or
That's awesome.
a barracuda, or one kid decided it was a great idea to grab a shark. One time we went diving, and I advised him strongly against it. He said, "It's a nurse shark. I know what I'm doing. It's not going to do anything." He grabbed the shark so hard, he didn't realize that sharks have very thick, like sandpaper skin. So he scratched the hell out of his hand, and we had to, go give him the first aid treatment.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm not going to say whose elected official's son that was. It was one of the, I think it might have been the assistant city manager's son.
It was Francis, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Francis. But that was the city of Miami, you got to understand, the city of Miami has a lot of areas, a lot of, very high-end areas, and everything that you can imagine, every shade of the rainbow. And the city's always been good, especially in the Parks and Recs programs, the elected officials, about getting kids to realize the incredible wealth we have of nature in Biscayne Bay. And I love doing it. And if it was still there today, I would send my kids. But they don't have the program anymore. The guy that ran it retired, Nestor Carbonell. He was a fantastic guy. His son's a fantastic guy, who's a SWAT officer now for Coral Gables, by the way. So shout out to Joey Carbonell.
Did you ever run into a guy named Marcos Moran?
Marcos Moran?
Yeah. He runs a wakeboard school out of Rickenbacker Marina. But
Blonde?
I think
Blonde? Yeah.
I think he used to work at the sailing school.
Yeah, he was another guy that was there. And so, funny story, Nestor Carbonell that ran the program for the city, his son and I were very good friends. He worked there also. So his son, Nestor Carbonell Jr., teaches wakeboarding with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I always have it on my list of things to do. All right, kids, this weekend we're going to go try wakeboarding. And they're like, no, we got a soccer game. And we got this other thing going on.
Yeah. That's my thing. So I go with Marcos a lot. He's like one of my good friends.
Yeah, he's a great dude. And I got to get out there. I got to get out there and teach my kids, because I feel like I'm doing a terrible job as a father if they can't do any water sports.
Yeah, you got to be in here.
So you were into sailing. You were a lifeguard. Any other sports you do in high school?
So the same guy that ran this program for the city, he was a rowing coach for Cuba in the Olympics, and so he got us into rowing, what they call crew, I guess.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have a program at our high school, and he found a guy to sponsor us and get us a bunch of rowing shells. And so we did that like all through high school. And essentially I got all the guys from Columbus that were my friends, and there were Carbonell's friends, and we would all go out there and compete all over the state of Florida. We didn't do too bad for ourselves. MRC was the big rival. And there were a couple of times we would.
Crew is no joke. Like rowing is serious shit.
It's just that's like cross country running. How much pain can you tolerate?
It was not a lot of fun, especially when you're. So I'm not. I'm only 5'8". I'm not exactly tall.
Most crew people are like at least 6 foot tall.
Yeah, so we would have the big. But we're in Miami, so what's my gene pool that I can I can grab from, especially Columbus.
Yeah,
I would grab every tall person that had half a good gene. That maybe both of their parents weren't Cuban, and took them and threw them in a boat with me. But in the we would row in 8 heavyweights, so I would go on the end, on the lighter end, and the bigger guys would be in the middle. Then I'd row a 4. So we would do 4 races a day, and you're sprinting all out, and maybe sometimes you get enough time to row the boat in, eat a banana, and then go back out there. It was a lot of fun. But again, all that happened because of the city and the sponsorship of people. It wasn't. My upbringing was not like the Coconut Grove Yacht Club, just because I live in the Grove. It was really whatever the city of Miami had available for the kids. I was all in, and my parents always encouraged me to participate in those programs, and then ended up working there. And those relationships, we still see each other randomly all the time. So
that's awesome.
So growing up in high school, what subjects did you like, and when did you realize you're like, I'm going to be a lawyer?
Probably like 10 years after practicing law, I realized I was going to be a lawyer.
Did you have something that you were like that you wanted to do in high school? Like, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do?
I liked science. I always liked science. I thought I was going to be. I went to college applying as a pre-med with I think my major that I put down originally was biology and physics or something like that. And then I did all the prerequisites because I'm hard-headed. I didn't want to quit, and then just went a different direction. But I don't know. High school was like a blur. I just wanted to just get as good grades as you can.
But the subjects that you enjoyed most were science.
Yeah, all the science stuff.
Yeah.
I remember biology, chemistry, all the math stuff I liked. I tried the English. I've always felt like, and still to this day, there's a subjective part of what we do on the zoning side that's architectural, that's fun. But at the same time, it's always a challenge because subjectivity creates, it's what's your interpretation of this versus the other person's interpretation. And I always just like surety. I always, as quickly as 1 + 1 = 2, I want to get there. I think that's why I like those subjects. I think that's why to this day, I always try to figure out like the path of least resistance. I'm still trying to get from A to B. I'm not telling you this is a straight line. There's always deviation. But, I'm always trying to find the surest, shortest route. And yes, of course, we have to create a fantastic architectural specimen. But at the same time, it has to underwrite, and you have to be able to actually build it. And it's not just about the pretty pictures. I don't mind the pretty pictures in the Real Deal and the Commercial Observer and South Florida Business Journal. But I really prefer to, put the shovel in the dirt and get the deal going.
So you're into science. You're thinking you're going to go pre-med. What happened?
Well, you went to Duke, right?
Yeah, I went to Duke for undergrad.
So you were a pretty good student.
Well, that's why I went there. They were at the time, they were the number one med school in the country.
Did you play basketball, by the way? I saw a jersey in your office.
It's 5'8".
Yeah, maybe he's fast.
I'm 5'8" on a good day.
Remember, what was the guy's name? Muggsy Bogues or whatever?
Yeah, Muggsy Bogues. I got a couple inches on Muggsy Bogues, but his skill set, it far exceeds mine.
He could dunk, couldn't he?
No. I have in my office a Jason Williams jersey from the 2001 championship of my senior year, and we were friends.
Oh, cool.
So the whole team signed it, and we all got those framed when we graduated.
So
That's awesome.
When did you graduate high school? What year?
1997.
Okay.
So Miami was still still in its infancy. When I came back after law school in 2024, it had just changed dramatically.
So you went to Duke, studied pre-med. When did you decide I'm not going to be a doctor?
Junior, like my second semester junior year.
Yeah.
I basically had a year to pivot and finish a different major.
And what did you finish with?
Political science.
What happened? What made that pivot?
I basically finished the prerequisites for pre-med, and then you had to pick that major. And all my friends were just going that route. And I talked to a lot of friends of mine that were doctors, and they all had the same advice for me. The medicine's changed. It's going in a different direction.
Yeah.
It's not what it used to be. You have to be highly specialized. And so probably by the time you get out and start, making your first bucks, you're 35 years old and you have all this debt behind you. And none of them really recommended doing it.
Yeah.
And I had to take a hard look and say, well, I don't know what I'm going to do necessarily, but I'm going to pivot in a different direction.
So why political science?
I mean, I've always liked politics. I grew up in a household of government, and obviously the whole the Cuban.
I graduated with an international relations degree. So it's political science. So what courses did you end up taking?
Oh, there was one course I took called that was basically game theory that was taught by a Taiwanese professor.
That sounds sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I learned a lot about. I think game theory works in the real world, where the best course of action is always to cooperate with one another, and you're always going to yield greater results. There is no upside to defecting or not cooperating with the other person in the long run. And that's what kept it's all about the United States and Russia and the Cold War, essentially what the class is about.
Cool.
And so you cooperate until the other person defects, fails to cooperate. And then you continue to fail to cooperate until that person learns and agrees to cooperate with you and realizes that you always create a higher score by working together. And usually after that one correction, the person doesn't do it again because they realize that there's no upside to it. And the funny part of the story is because the teacher was Taiwanese and my family was Cuban, his realization at the end of the semester after talking to me was he pulled me aside and he goes, look, there's one thing I've learned from you this semester I never knew before and I think is genius, and I'm going to write a thesis on this. And I go, what's that? And he goes, they should change all the people in Taiwan for the people in Cuba, the people in Cuba, the people in Taiwan. And I started laughing. And he goes, yeah, because the people in Cuba are communists, so put them close to the communists. People in Taiwan are capitalists, so put them next to the freedom-loving and capitalists.
I love it.
He goes, we'll solve like so many problems in the world if we would put the Cubans in Taiwan and all the Taiwanese here in Cuba. And he's like, they're both tropical islands. So I developed a great relationship with him. I ended up going to visit Taiwan. Not a lot of people understand that it's almost all rainforest.
I didn't realize
it's
that.
incredible.
It's really tropical there, huh?
It's really tropical.
I did not realize that.
And then the other story that sticks out in my mind from college was that we would take like a course in political science. We could create our own. Essentially, it was our own paper we would write at the end of the semester, and we would create whatever we wanted. And the professor that I selected really was out of D.C. So he worked out of D.C. and he would commute to Duke for our class and a couple other classes he had. And he was a big Cold War guy also, and a lot of background in Cuba and the history. So he let me essentially write a paper on the effects of the Cuban immigration on Miami, at that time.
Cool.
If I could write the story now, it would even, it was even greater than it is today. But, taking it basically from swamp to an incubator for the capital of Latin America to the fruition of what it is today. Miami's, it was a much more heavily Cuban-dominated town in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I remember when they shot down...
Than it is now.
Yeah. It's much more diversified now. I mean, my school, when I grew up, it was like 95% Cuban. There was 3 Nicaraguan guys, maybe 2 Colombian guys. And now my kids, go to school, I would say, my wife's Brazilian, I'm Cuban. Yeah, there are a lot of Cuban kids, but there are tons of Brazilians, tons of people from Europe, tons of people from... Colombia, Venezuela, it's diversified tremendously, and I think thinking, I haven't thought about this experience. And
we even have Americans here now too, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great.
Ben was one of them.
Yeah. What's up, guys?
Thanks. Yeah. One of the token Americans.
Yeah.
Welcome.
The best part about Miami is you leave the country and you don't even need a passport.
Exactly.
You don't even have to get on a plane. You can actually drive there. That's the only difference between
the country starts at Broward. I feel like that's the USA up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but I think that period of time was the incubator for what was created today. And obviously we're the beneficiary of a lot of good policy also at the state level. And, an opportunity, what do they say? Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. And, obviously we've skyrocketed in the last 5 years, but I don't think it happened overnight. I think a lot of people were already having the conversation about Miami before that.
Yeah. I mean, it really, I've been here 25 years and it's just been straight and to the right, for the last 25 years.
I can't think of another market for what I do in government work and development easily. There's really no other market. And I get the benefit of being in rooms with, Urban Land Institute. I was in a room in Vegas with, they put their hands up and they said, somebody gave a stat that the people in that room were responsible for almost 70% of the transactional volume in multifamily for that year. So there's a level of people in that room. And they all go around and talk about, what are your strategies? And they all said, we have all these headwinds, but everybody had Florida on their strategy. Every single one of them had Florida on their strategy. So when you're in a room like that and you can see anecdotally that people at that level of sophistication look at the demand factors down here, the challenge is how do they get the supply delivered? And I just see, this is why I became an attorney to practice law anyways. I just saw where can I provide value and where do you unlock the supply is by doing what I do because the demand's there. The bottleneck is government. The bottleneck is discovering where the opportunities are, where the hockey puck's going, how to see across the horizon. And that's why I like doing all the legislative stuff. I like to know what's going to happen before it gets to commission and before it passes so I can walk the clients through it. They can give me their feedback. We can work with staff at the city and the county and create a better product. But yes, at the same time, we also, try to take advantage of where things are going if that's where the elected officials want to move the community.
Felipe, ever since we moved into Bureau, my productivity has been through the roof. I mean, I might actually be getting things done for once.
The energy at Bureau just makes work fun. Plus, with 8 locations across South Florida, from South Miami all the way to Hollywood, there's no excuse for not finding a spot to get your shit done, Ben.
And we're not alone. Over 500 local companies call Bureau home. Everything from creative agencies and real estate firms to tech startups, law firms, and media companies. It's a melting pot of brilliant people, and we don't include ourselves in that category.
We definitely don't include ourselves in that category. category. Bureau really has space for anyone, whether you're flying solo or have a team. There are suites starting at 100 square feet all the way up to 2,000 square feet. They also don't try to lock you into long-term agreements, and everything is month to month.
Let's not forget the important stuff either. The coffee is top tier, staff is incredible, and has a very entrepreneurial vibe. It's not just a workspace, it's a place where work actually gets done.
That's right, Ben. So if you want to level up your workday like we try to do every day, check out Bureau. You might even catch us sipping some espressos between podcast sessions.
Or tequila.
Definitely tequila.
Tell Bureau the Built World sent you, and you'll get 50% off your first month's membership. See you out there. Cheers.
Later.
If your Instagram is collecting dust, so are your leads.
That's why we started working with Sage Marketing. And I gotta say, they're dialed in, Ben.
Yeah, they'll build out your content, help you with your brand voice, and even create custom reels for you. Stuff that looks good, authentic, and performs.
Whether you just need strategy, someone to train your team, or you're ready to hand it all over, Sage has packages for whatever level you're at.
And the best part, you can book a free 15-minute discovery call. No pressure, just a quick call to see where you're at and how they can help.
Hit up socialmedia.sage on Instagram or check the show notes for the link. If you're serious about growing your brand this year, this is the move. First, you graduated with a political science degree, then you decide to go to Vanderbilt.
Yes.
And to get your law degree at that point. Did you go straight from college to Vanderbilt? And that's Vanderbilt's in Tennessee.
Yeah,
is in Nashville.
Vanderbilt's talking about another town that's changed a lot.
Yeah, about two party towns. I mean, there's a trend here, right? Miami, Nashville.
I just
and Nashville's one of the cities too, though, that I went there about 15 years ago, and then I went back like 5 years ago, and that whole Gulch area just is like,
it's crazy.
It's insane. It's another city that's just blown up.
No. It's Nashville is unbelievable. I went back. I took my wife for the first time, and she was just.
By the way, where'd you meet your wife?
Oh man, it's cliche.
Yeah,
it's cliche. We met at a gym called M Cycle in South Miami.
Oh, nice.
But I didn't meet her telling her, "Hey, you have bad form."
What was your pickup line?
I didn't have a I didn't have a pickup line. The owners of the gym were Brazilian, and they always kept telling me that they had this. And I just graduated law school, and I came back to start working. And
so this is after you finished Vanderbilt?
Yeah, it's after I finished Vanderbilt.
Okay.
I'll get back to Vanderbilt in a second, but that's a good question. So my wife will get a kick out of this. So the Brazilians kept telling me that there was this really nice girl they wanted me to meet, and I was just studying and I was just working, and I wanted to focus on my. I didn't care. And so at one point in time, this goes on for weeks, it goes on for months, and I go, guys, I mean, honestly, look, I don't know who this girl is or what's going on with her, but do me a favor. The girl that just walked out of that spinning class, she's cute. You can introduce me to her because I don't know who this girl is. And I can't make this up. They go, that's the Brazilian girl.
Oh, yeah.
And shit. I go, oh, okay, well, fine. Introduce me to her.
I'm fucked.
Well, I mean, it didn't go well at first. I can tell you that much because they gave me her number, told me that they spoke to her about me, that she was expecting my call. They kind of, like a warm handoff. And I call her and she goes, who's this? And I go, it's Tony.
She was just playing hard to get with you.
No, she's not that good of an actress. She goes, who's this? I go, Tony. And she goes, Tony who? And I this is like the worst thing I ever could have said. I go, it's me, Tony from the gym. Like the only thing I was like Gym Tan. I give like a Gym Tan laundry line. And she goes, Tony from the gym who? And I go, well, clearly they didn't tell you that I was going to call you, and they probably think this is very funny. But they gave me your number, blah, blah, blah. And, figured it out with the people at the gym to explain to her what they did, that I wasn't some crazy stalker.
Yeah.
And
and next thing you know, you're married with 3 kids.
Yeah, so something like that. Our first date was to a Heat game. She still knows we played the Clippers. She still knows we won. Randomly, my dad went to the game. I didn't even know he was there. But I saw him, and I think I gave him a ride home or something.
That's amazing.
And then we had, being in the Grove, we had dinner on the way back at Le Bouchon.
Oh yeah, that's a great first date spot.
It's a little, relaxed,
Perfect.
nothing complicated.
I love that place.
And then
is that still around?
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
Different owners. George that owned the place moved to Brazil. That guy's a great character. That's a character.
But he hasn't owned that place in like 20 years.
No. But he was a character in the history of Miami.
Yeah,
at that time,
absolutely.
For sure.
That guy was a legend.
But at that restaurant, which is small, one of her parents' best friends were having dinner like a table over from us.
Yeah.
And they sent over champagne and made a comment like, "Is Brazilian, so she's a little bit of a macumbera.
Uh-huh.
It's like santero, like a voodoo." She said, "I think you guys are meant for each other, and we're gonna toast to you guys being married."
Oh, wow.
Something along those lines.
Wow.
She sent the champagne over.
It's an aggressive first date.
Yeah, it was.
A lot of pressure there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so it came back, and she didn't even know what I looked like. She had her brother meet me at the door, and she was like, "Go meet him." Obviously, I learned this story after the fact, many years after the fact. Go meet him, find out if he has like all his teeth. And
So you made zero impression on her at the gym, apparently.
and her brother goes to her. Supposedly the line was, he has all his teeth, and he has green eyes. That's all I can tell you.
And that's all she needed to hear.
Well, listen, right? I gotta play to my strong suits. I'm not tall, and I blend in well with a sea of Cubans here in Miami, and I gotta do what I gotta wear the green shirt to match. That was the first date move, and lo and behold, we're still here 3 kids later, and she's
cool.
She's put up with all the politics, and sometimes you get caught in it. Sometimes you got to do the fundraisers. Sometimes you get your friends win. Sometimes your friends lose.
Yeah.
And,
So let's roll it back. So Nashville, you were there partying, getting a law degree.
Yeah, I got a law degree. So I was there from 01 to 04, got a law degree. They had a program at the time. You do a JD and an MBA. And I started taking the MBA courses. This is going to take.
But you started a business too at that time.
Yeah, so this is how I started this business.
And what was the name of the business?
It was 2 companies. One was called Wheels Next, and one was called Automotoring.
Okay, and what are these businesses?
So in this MBA program, you would do like a startup, and they would do an elevator competition. And so I win the elevator competition, do the startup, ended up being a guest speaker for the school. I was still going to school there because I actually started this company. And there's the model was Tire Rack, essentially. Tire Rack or Discount Tire Rack, where you buy automotive parts online, and then we would wholesale them to Latin America. And so I got way, deep in the weeds in, we had a website, and we hired a guy from Brazil in-house to basically structure this algorithm where all the stuff that the other companies were too conservative to do, we would figure out how to make it fit for the different automobiles. And we would manufacture the wheels and the tires to fit all these cars. So like everyone from, I think we did Shaq's wife's car in a custom one-off forged wheel. It was a plate. He came in, he engineered it, designed it, and we manufactured it out of a lathe and a...
This is very Miami of you designing wheels and
You guys
tires.
like pimp my ride.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Throw some 26s on it.
So we had a warehouse in Miami, in Nashville, because I was there at the time, and people don't realize this, but there's a reason why FedEx and UPS are all in that area. Is you're within 500 miles of 75% of the U.S. population.
Yeah.
And so we put a distribution center in Nashville, one in Miami, and one in Los Angeles, because all the product was coming in offshore. So my 2 models were FedEx for distribution, and then Amazon at the time was doing third-party logistics in its infancy. And I said, we should be like Amazon. We should drop a warehouse in California, and we would have infinite amount of millions of dollars of inventory at our disposal within 24 hours. So this thing like skyrockets. We get listed by Inc. magazine as one of the top growing, like, I don't know, it was 500 or probably like 5,000. 500, giving myself too much credit. But they had a list they would do every year, Inc. magazine. They included us in it as one of the fastest growing private companies in the U.S. We grew to almost 100 employees, and sales significantly in excess of anything that I...
But you started this in
law school.
In law school.
I couldn't finish. I ended up not doing the MBA because I basically had a mentor in the MBA school that helped me start the company. And I said, I can't do this and law school and the MBA. And, it was just a tough decision to make at the time. But I figured, I think his comments were, you will learn your MBA in this company, and then
absolutely.
I will help you. And then stick with your law degree, because that's always a great tool to have.
Yep. And
so we graduated. I mean, my last year was really tough, especially my last semester. I mean, I had to pick and choose classes because I was working at the company, trying to finish up my last credits in law school. And some of my friends were like, man, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I wasn't like partying either. I was working. I would fly to China constantly, because we were manufacturing offshore in Taiwan.
Dang.
Guangzhou. I mean, back then China was like in its infancy also.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons I got to go to Taiwan. We were manufacturing product in Taiwan and Japan, some of the higher end stuff in Japan, but most of it in China. And then we would sell container loads of wheels and tires. We would manufacture, and engineer all the suspension components. I took with me.
But so were you basically running this company?
It was one of my best friends at the time. He was a sweat equity guy, and he knew the automotive industry at a local level. And then he had some relationships, and then we leveraged them through a group of investors that we brought in to build this out. And what was so funny tie into real estate is one of my, we went to college together, Dev Matwani and Nitin.
Oh, you guys went to college together?
Yeah. And,
oh, wow.
And so one of these trips, I flew out there with Dev also. And Dev went with me to a factory where they were smelting.
You guys flew out to where?
To China. We were in China. We went to visit a friend of ours in Japan at the time. Another friend of ours that was working at Goldman Sachs in Tokyo. So I was like, do you want to come with me to China? Because so we planned the whole trip. So we went to China also. And I'm like, listen, this is one of the days we're going to go to the factories. So he did the ride along with me. We went to these factories and they're like smelting aluminum all over the place.
That's cool.
And I mean, still to this day, we were like, he's seen a lot of stuff in the real estate world, but I'm sure if you asked him about it, he would be like, that was really cool to see like a full industrial campus.
Yeah.
Where people are living on this campus. They're working on the factory. They're just smelting aluminum all over the place. And imagine, you're talking about like 20 something years ago. It was a different time. So, it was a lot of fun. I probably learned more doing that than I can attribute ultimately whatever I can attribute to my success to what I learned there about the business side.
So what happened with the company? Did you sell it, make them a shitload of money, or what happened?
Well, just like anything else happens in life, even though you're a success, different people get. It was a personnel thing, and I had a law degree, so I can tell you it came down to a meeting in Abrachi in the Gables. I can point to the table I was at, and I said, "Listen, this should go in this direction. I am willing to dedicate myself more, but I'm practicing law. I can't do more full time, but I can do a year, and basically do more in the company. But I sacrifice my legal career, but this is my vision for it, and this is how I'm willing to do it." And the partners didn't agree with my vision, so I just said that's fine, but then I have to make a decision and go practice law. Because me and my wife were getting serious at the time, and I started thinking about the future, and it wasn't just about me anymore.
But you own equity in this company? Or?
No. So at that table I brought you, I got up and I go, I'm exercising my rights, and I will be exiting the company. And so I just went full-time into practicing law and started investing in real estate with the earnings that I had from that company. So started doing value-add rehab, building luxury spec houses on the side, and going full blast into real estate, which is a good time because it was people think the downturn was a bad time for real estate.
It was the best.
But it was an incredible time for real estate, especially if you were young. You got to learn. It just accelerated your career, and you got to learn things that you might not have had any business being the lead of. But when somebody handed us a portfolio, my firm at the time, shout out to Pathman Lewis, Wayne Pathman and Hal Lewis. They had that firm for over 20 years, and I spent 6 or 7 years there with them. And, I think BNY Mellon and Sabadell Bank, they all broke up and they left, $500 million of assets in a portfolio here. And I got, and they said, well, who knows what a swap loan is, a derivative loan, an ISDA agreement is. And I happen to know what it was, and they go, all right, perfect. So you're going to handle all these cases, and you're going to work with this partner. I had no litigation wasn't my thing. I was more of a transactional guy, and I did litigation for a couple of years. I think everybody should do litigation, but as my wife tells me, I'm a much nicer person when I'm not a litigator than when I was. It's hard to really change that dynamic when you get home and everything's like a point and a count, not an argument, but a point and a counterpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, I practiced litigation there. And then when the downturn finished, got back into transactional and entitlement work. Really got to see the value of entitlement value in the downturn, because all these properties, this dirt was worthless without the entitlements. So we had to keep these entitlements going for years to make sure you could get on the other side of it. And every once in a while, I still run into an old MUSP that I might have worked on. It might still be around.
So just an old MUSP is basically a project that was approved under the old code.
Yeah, under 11,000.
That you can still roll over, right? As long as you keep.
Some of them are like still around. Some of them, will jump out of nowhere 20 years later.
You can renew these things, right? Over and over.
I think there's still some out there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're done. But I did after law school when I came back here. It's difficult I think professionally to break into Miami. If I had advice for my kids now, I might tell them to stay at University of Miami or go to UF, because even though I went to Duke and Vanderbilt, it's the network is more towards New York or DC or Atlanta or Chicago, not necessarily Miami, at least 20 years ago. Now Miami's a different animal. So maybe my advice would be different, but I had to figure out how to, reconnect myself with the network down here after running a company. It was really bizarre. And so I have to give a lot of credit to the University of Miami. They have a 1-year program, a master's degree in real property development. So I did that for a year, helped me reconnect with a lot of folks. And then I got my first, full-blown serious gig coming out of there. And at I really learned a lot about vertical real estate development. And I ended up teaching in this program for 6 or 7 years. I'm on the board of directors for the program. And big shout out to the real property development LLM at If you want to do real estate in Miami, I recommend you go to get your law degree there, and then do the joint degree at the LLM program, because all you're going to do is hardcore real estate development. All my developer clients are going in there. All the attorneys are going in there and teaching you. Like, we have 7 attorneys from Bilzin that teach at the program. So that's like the last piece of my education, and then onto the hard knocks world of zoning.
When you started entering the when you said it was the kind of the downturn you got into it, were you also investing in real estate at the same time?
Yeah, I did a spec house in the Gables.
Looks like you need a little topper there, no?
I'm all right.
You sure?
Worry. Yeah, I'm gonna have to work later on until God knows when.
All right.
So that was just
you're Ubering at home though, right?
That was something to relax me.
Yeah.
That was something to relax me. So I'm sorry. The question.
Were you also actively investing in real estate?
Oh yeah.
While you started doing law.
So my first foray into that was with a client of my father's, who was a developer. So my dad was a real estate attorney, and he always had a nice practice on Brickell, sold his office, and pretty much semi-retired now. But one of his clients built a project in the Gables, and I got my pick of a unit. I got a couple of free parking spaces. I got, quote unquote, to use the Miami phrase, hooked up, right? And then came the downturn. I thought it was a great investment, and then came the downturn, and I had to just let go of that unit. I ended up renting it out to kids. Still wouldn't make ends meet. And so I figured, well, if it's bad for me on this deal, then I'm going to find a bigger deal that it's even worse for somebody else. And it'll be kind of like, let's say, downturn arbitrage. My advice is if things are going bad for you on your deal, then one way to get out is to go to a bigger deal in the downturn, because it's going worse for somebody else. So there'll be arbitrage in there somewhere, and that's what I did. I bought a lot in the Gables that I, looking back at it, probably had no business getting into, and did a spec house there. And that guy was upside down on it. He had no business getting into it.
And your parents had experience in spec homes as well.
Yeah, so I've done some deals with my mom in particular. But one discussion about a plan term, where it was going to go and the amount of money she was spending on it, put an end to that. But we've done, they have, between my family, they have, different apartment buildings, and, it's always been value add. Some we've rolled into JVs. One deal I did with her was they own like multiple acres right off of Lejeune and Northwest 11th, excuse me. And we knew there was a higher and better use for that. So we, from my standpoint, did the research at the city, found a JV partner, and then it rolled into one of the hotels that are there today. But I did that deal, and I did some spec houses with her. My grandmother's 92. She still goes and loosely manages some of these buildings still.
That's awesome.
I think that's why she's as young as she is.
Absolutely.
But obviously, and then your life evolves. You're representing all the developers on this end, and at the end of the day, for a large part of the project, you're the point of contact. It's either everything kind of hinges on the success or failure of it, hinges on, or the level of success or failure, the efficiency of it, and in what you can do from the concept to, all the way up to construction. And, the other day I removed a bunch of liner units that didn't have to be in a project, and it saved the client like $5 million of construction costs.
But let me ask you a question, Tony. Are you focused in one
Jurisdiction?
Well, are you proficient in Miami 21 the most, or do you dabble in other zoning codes as well?
I focus on City of Miami and then urban centers in Miami-Dade County. Urban centers are areas of Miami-Dade County that are very similar to Miami 21, where they're form-based and they're very high density.
And they're usually focused around metro rail stops.
Yeah, metro and transit. So
Yeah.
that's really what I like to do. But almost all my projects are in the city of Miami, and then to the extent I'm in the county, I'm in urban centers focus, which is, I think that being a jack of all trades is not what I would recommend on the zoning side. I think the biggest government department in Florida. We have almost 35 attorneys, and so we have a team that heads up Miami, a team that heads up the county, a team that heads up the beach and coastal areas. Another team that does South Dade, a team that does Broward, and that team also does West Palm. So you can develop a real specialty.
But nothing else in the rest of the state.
On the rest of the state, I do get pulled in regularly on live local deals.
Yeah.
So
not that the rest of the state really matters, but
actually, a note on that. I would tell you that outside of the Tri-County area, Miami-Dade County, Broward, and Palm Beach, for the most part, we help our clients identify a local planner to do the projects, because it's not as typical to see the attorney do the deal. Usually the planners are running it, and then we'll help and interpret on the legal side as necessary, but we're more of a backstop, and the planner runs the deal. And so what the real that kind of fed in well with Live Local, because what we've had to deal with on the legal interpretation side was Live Local on all these projects. So I would say City of Miami, Miami-Dade County, specifically urban centers, and the overlap there is, they're both form-based codes. I focus on transit deals, transit development projects, P3s, government deals, and a lot of multifamily and mixed use. So I don't get into, they're all parts of the county where you can get into like industrial and warehousing. It's just not what I do. And the urban center stuff there, you really have to understand. I'll say this one thing. Even if you don't do the county, you have to understand the county working the city of Miami, because you're going to deal with the county when it comes to certain roads. You're going to deal with the county with DERM, the Department of Environmental Resource Management. You're going to have to deal with WASD, the Water and Sewer Department. So there's no you either.
The county always has final say, it seems like, right?
Well, a lot of deals have to run through the county, and so platting, a lot of these things, you can't just live in a bubble and say I'm only going to deal with staff at the city of Miami. No. You got to deal with staff at the county. And look, I'm also a unique animal in the sense that, like I said, my family business has been government. And so my father was in the city of Miami side, and my mother and my stepfather were in the county. And so, there are a lot of great relationships on both sides. Just like, my partner, Javier Avino, big shout out. I'll give you a shout out to him. His father was the manager of Miami-Dade County, but his main practice was in the city of Miami. So we both realized, man, urban centers have taken off, and it's a form-based code. It's just like Miami 21, and a lot of the projects are similar. Now there's this overlap with Live Local, and that's how really we were able to meld, the RTZ thing, rapid transit zones. It didn't exist until Brightline. That's something that we crafted in our office with our partner at the time, Stanley Price, who was a county attorney. Stanley Price, who's now retired officially. Officially, he'll say he never retired, but he retired probably last a year or so. And he was a county attorney, and he created this concept called rapid transit zones, and nobody knew what they were. And when Brightline came around, he said, we should use rapid transit zones. And the rest of us, okay, and people were wondering what that was, and ultimately that has become this incredible development tool all throughout Miami-Dade County now, and that's a testament to not just Stan, but the ability to meld county and city of Miami solutions. Without understanding both of those, RTZ wouldn't exist today. And I will tell you, that project, I felt like took years of my life, because I had to do a zoning opinion at the end of it to explain to the lender on how to fund the deal. And I think my opinion was this thick. It was like 2 phone books thick.
That looks very expensive.
Worth every penny.
Who paid for that?
Chock full of value. Chock full of value. No, the lender couldn't understand what RTZ was and how we could build a building floating in the air on top of an active train station, which had never been proposed before in Florida. You have to look to New York for that kind of stuff.
You're talking about downtown over here.
Yeah,
Brightline.
The Brightline station. Yeah.
We're just a couple blocks away from here.
Yeah. So I think that we train the young associates in the. I mean, I feel like I'm still young, but I've been practicing law for over 20 years. But we train the associates to work in multiple jurisdictions, but then get them really heavy in one. Like we'll get them really heavy in Miami, and they'll be part of the Miami team. We'll get them really heavy in the county, they'll be part of the county team, or the beach, for example. There's a lot of work on the beach or the coastal areas. So that's kind of how we set it up. We rotate the associates. That's how you learn a little bit of everything.
And that's where the density is in the county, right? Is where you're pretty much describing. Because besides that, like Coral Gables, and then you have 33 other zoning codes, I think, in Miami-Dade County or something like that. And they're not very dense.
No, I mean, look, it's City of Miami, number one, then Miami-Dade County, I would say Miami Beach, and then you have some coastal jurisdictions or just, coastal
Aventura,
adjacent.
Coral Gables.
Aventura, Coral Gables, North Miami Beach, North Miami.
Yeah.
I've actually done a number of projects in North Miami, and that's been good to work with their team because they had some folks come from the staff at the City of Miami and go over there. So, that's a funny thing. Sometimes you end up working projects in different jurisdictions because staff moves and you have a familiarity with the staff and they feel comfortable with you. So then, you'll get a phone call magically and say, oh, I heard that you might know this person. And that's always just the reality of our practice. But I spent most of my time in this morning, today, Thursday, I was at the City Miami Commission, and then I had a meeting with 11 people in the Department of Transportation and Public Works at the county on an urban center deal. So I would have to deal with them on the public works stuff and Durham anyways in the City of Miami project. So it's kind of two birds. Is it two
birds, one stone?
Yeah, two birds, one stone. Whatever.
Something like that.
Yeah, my kids probably know what it is.
I in the last few years, you really emerged as like the czar of Live Local. How did that happen?
So
I feel like every time I see your name, I see Live Local.
Well, I mean, look, it's because Live Local. Let's be honest, Live Local lets us go and I think do better projects from the standpoint that staff, professional staff, they have not just undergraduate degrees, but graduate degrees, postgraduate degrees in planning, and they understand their code. And this allows them to run the project administratively and not be concerned with, well, if I approve this, and if the neighbors get mad, am I going to get in trouble politically? And I say, what does the code say? I don't care about whether I'm going to get in trouble politically. What does the code say? And what does it allow you to do now administratively? So there's a definite pressure on staff that's political, that's palpable, that they feel that has been removed because now it's in a fully administrative process. And the reality is they're the ones that know the code. And I'm a neighbor. I have a project I'm working on down the street from my house. I know it's going to add density by my house, but it's also going to add vibrancy. It's going to add an economic opportunity by my house. So it's not like I only do stuff away from my where I live.
So you're okay with density near your house?
I think this is on a corridor. It's on a transit corridor. Why wouldn't you have it there? That's where it's supposed to go. But the whole Live Local thing was, I think it's my background in multifamily value add, understanding these neighborhoods and how much we need workforce housing.
Yeah.
And I've been involved for years with the workforce housing ordinances of the county. And Nathan Kogan, I have to give him a lot of credit for his spectacular work at the county and really promulgating the workforce housing.
He's director of planning and zoning at the county, right?
He was. Now he's the interim director of public housing.
Okay.
Because Alex Baino is a director, and Alex is going back into private practice. So now I believe Nathan, I don't want to say he stole Nathan from being the director of the zoning of the county. I think he kind of stole him, and Nathan was a sympathetic ear to hear. Nathan's always loved focusing on housing policy. And now, he's the interim director. But he was really there at the early advent of the county passing their new workforce housing code and then really increasing the density allowances in urban centers. Once the county did that, that's when I really started focusing on urban centers, not just the City of Miami, because they went to allow you to do 250 units an acre in urban centers. They basically doubled overnight the density allowances there. And Oliver Gilbert was really Commissioner Gilbert, former Chair Gilbert was at the forefront of that. And he'll tell you, he took Metro Rail from where he lived in the north part of Miami-Dade County, and he would take it every day to the city of Miami, to University of Miami,
I love that.
and back. And he'll tell anybody, he'll tell you the story. He'll stop whatever he's doing, and he'll give you the whole scenario. And I applaud him for telling people need to hear that story, because he did it every single day. And if it wasn't for public transportation, he would never be able to have made it to the University of Miami every day. So, I think that story, I know, was behind his push for the urban centers, his push for the smart plan corridors that we have now. And all that stuff, I got a first row seat working on it, because I started doing all the workforce housing stuff for the county when that started with Nathan. And so with that workforce housing background, to me, the live local stuff is natural. And so I'm on the board of governors of the Florida Chamber. So the Florida Chambers in Tallahassee, and any housing legislation I got to look at. So this housing legislation comes up, and they have me look at it, and I just see affordability, and my mind goes to big A affordable. And so I give it to Terry Lovell in my office, who heads up our affordable, like big A affordable LIHTC practice. And he calls me back and he goes, no. He's like, Anthony, you need to look at this. I don't think this is the affordable you think. I think this is the workforce stuff, the middle market stuff that you love to do. And so I look at it and I go, oh my God, this is fantastic. So I started getting involved in it. And then I found out that two of our clients were heavily involved in doing the legislation at the onset. So, I'll fast forward a little bit. One of these issues was the tax exemption. And to me, it was very evident to me that the taxes needed to get addressed, because every client was short like 50 bips return on cost. If they needed a 6.5, they were stuck at a 6. If they needed a more suburban product, they were at 7. They needed a 7, they were stuck at 6.5. So knowing real estate and operating my family's assets, and knowing how to put together a pro forma, I go, if I can get $100 million project, $500,000 in income, and underwrite that project's going to get greenlit, or maybe they're short 30 bips, it's $300,000. I can do that easily in all these workforce deals. And I can do them probably I've even done them in Wynwood on some projects for at least 80 or 90 units of the project. So anyways, that's where I saw, and I started getting involved more on the tax side than on the zoning side at first.
I think it's still an issue though, isn't it? Because I think a lot of lenders are having a problem with underwriting that tax abatement.
Well,
because of that 3-year renewal thing.
So we're working on that, and I'm working with FHA is the umbrella organization for Fannie, Freddie, and HUD. And so I've gotten connected with their folks in their what they call Southeast Production, which is out of Atlanta, and their team out of DC. So they have a legal group that does technical review of federal law. And we've had conversations about them doing technical review of the state law for the first time, which they're open to do. That's number one. Number two, they've told me that their heartburn is the opt-out. And there's this concept of the opt-out where last year, if the HUD Metropolitan Statistical Area, the HUD MSA, showed a surplus of affordable units, the way you show that is through this thing called the Sumberg study that the University of Florida does every year, commissioned by the state of Florida. If you show a surplus of affordable units, and the taxing authorities in that MSA can opt out. So then HUD, I have it. We've had these conversations. They've put it for me in writing, and I've forwarded it to the state. And because the state said, if you show me that HUD has issues with it, if you show me these guys have issues with it, then we know definitively it's not just, a boy, the proverbial crying wolf. And I go, no, here it is. So they put it down on paper, and they said the opt-out's what's giving us the heartburn, because we don't have a statewide policy that we can underwrite. What if the local politics change and the taxing authorities decide that they want to opt out? We're in for this long-term loan. What if they change, for a period of time? How can we deal with that? So right now, the Live Local Act, which I don't want to call it 3.0, but it really was a larger housing package that we worked on. And I was working with the House sponsor, Vicky Lopez, from the summertime, even before her election. Like, she was working in the election and still work on this legislation at the same time because it was so important to her. And then on the Senate side, Alexis Calatayud and the former Senate President, Kathleen Pasadomo, who originally helped on the Senate side and really pushed this forward definitively when she was the Senate President last year. So, but we worked on the House side to create a really big housing package. The Senate and the House got together. they came up with what both of them were comfortable passing, and it still passed unanimously. And we got in there, I would say, like 90-something% of the stuff that we really put at the core at our first stakeholder meeting in Tallahassee back in it was right after Thanksgiving. Like nobody goes up at that time. We were already meeting as early as like right after Thanksgiving, November, early December, with a very small group. And the mission was, what is critical to get this legislative intent moved forward, understanding there are 411 different municipalities in the state, 67 different counties in the state. Folks can have different interpretations of things, but you can. I told somebody the other day, I go, you can call, if something has webbed feet and has feathers and a bill and it quacks, it's some kind of duck. I don't know if it's a mallard or maybe it's a swan. I don't know. I'm not a pro here, but don't call it a dog. Okay. And that's what I would tell. We've had these conversations with some municipalities. I go, you can't tell me that's not a mixed use zoning district that Live Local is applicable to. It has residential, it has office, it has food and beverage. What else are you missing for it to be mixed use? Well, we don't view it as mixed use. I go, well, listen, now you're calling a duck a dog. I don't care what you call it. That's not what it is.
It's like mixed use is a dirty word, right?
I mean, and then, later on you find out.
Jane Jacobs would be pissed.
You're so pissed.
Later on you find out it's like, the politicians that are just so used to, this wasn't in South Florida, so I can speak freely. They're so used to, having their fiefdoms and believing in the law until they decide, well, what laws do I really want to pick and choose to get me reelected because this neighbor complained to me? And many politicians will say that they feel bullied by the neighbors many times because we'll get professional staff to approve the project, and then the neighbors will come, the tyranny of the minority for the most part, yep. And they'll drown out any support, intimidate support in the neighborhood, not bring them into the discussion, and then just try to, bully the elected official or the board to break the law, essentially, because they don't have any support to contradict professional staff on the project. All that stuff really resonated with me. The workforce housing, that I'm supportive of development because I've seen Miami become what it could, not by, going backwards, but by promoting good, vibrant projects. And so, the first big change that we made in Live Local was in the second year, because we didn't know what it was going to be necessarily. I just got a test run of it and got to understand it through Florida Chamber and make some very high-level comments on it. But the second year, we got to work with the Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser's Office to actually draft the legislation.
This is like last year, right?
This was the second go around.
Yeah.
And the taxes were supposed to apply to the whole asset. And then the way that it was drafted, it only applied to the leasable square footage of the unit. So when we started running some math with the property appraiser, I said to him, give me the actual spreadsheet you used to create this tax exemption, because some things I'm missing about, like 30 or 40% of the tax exemption. So he gives me the spreadsheet, and I go, why'd you pull that out? And he goes, well, that's the percentage of the property that's the land value, and you don't get a tax exemption on the land value. I said, okay. And then I go, well, I don't think that's correct. So let's connect you with the sponsors in Tallahassee. And then, 20 minutes later in that conversation, I go, wait a second, what's that number? Oh, well, those are that's the common area factor. So every multifamily project typically has 30% common area factor. And I go, wait a second, you just subscribe 15 to 20% of the value to the land, another 30% to the common area factor. You just cut the tax exemption in half.
That's fucking
well, I mean,
nuts.
that's the interpretation and this and that. I go, hold on. And we would call it our Friday happy hours. We would go and turn our Live Local happy hours. I'd sit there and turn pages in the bill, before right when it was getting passed, because we had to work on the interpretation of it. And nobody knew what it was. They, that the PA kind of felt that it wasn't something they had ownership of. So I kind of had to bridge the gap between the vacuum of the policy in Tallahassee.
But it almost sounds like they're trying to make this as difficult as possible for people to get these projects across the line.
Well, you can correct me, but I think it's different. I think Anthony has a unique perspective because he understands the development, the P&L side, and the legal side. These guys, they don't understand the development side. So they're just trying to figure out how to fit like a square peg in a round hole.
There's a lot of, look, a real estate development really is put together and orchestrated by the developer. And it's they orchestrate the construction, the financing, the marketing, the legal. I mean, there's so many different pieces, but there's not a lot of communication between those silos. By the way, when I joined Bilzin, they always sold me on the fact that in one office, we have all those to coordinate and collaborate. And everybody says that. But 10 years later, I tell my managing partner all the time, don't worry about me at the end of the year with my comp. We'll figure it out. You take care of me. I'll always be here. No problem. You're never going to lose me to another law firm, because there's nobody else that works this way, where I can bring in a project from the concept all the way to completion, and everybody is on my team that I work with every single day. And that's why a lot of this stuff came out, because I went to my affordable housing team and they pushed it back to me, because I went to somebody else in the real estate finance department and they gave me input on it. And ultimately, this tax issue is reflective of that silo that people don't talk to each other. Like a zoning guy normally won't understand anything of the impact on the underwriting, nor will they care, nor will they say, well, that design feature is going to cost you $3 million and this deal is going to blow up and you're not going to have the return on cost. You ask an attorney what return on cost is, they're probably going to look at you like you have a third eyeball.
Yeah.
And all I try to do every day is figure out how I can get them 10 bips, 20 bips, 30 bips, whatever it is. Because if I just approve the pretty project and it can't get built, then the rest of my team doesn't work. Then they don't get to the construction financing. They don't get to the construction documents. They don't get to the JV agreements.
Well, to your point about eking out those bips, that's where we're at right now. I mean, it's really down to eking out a bip at a time to get these projects to pencil, because it's tight.
I mean, but the amount of time that I had to spend, my kids a lot. Sometimes we would get together with the property appraiser after hours, and Lázaro Solis was deputy property appraiser. That guy gave as much. A big shout out to him. He gave every time in the world. We would work late. He's like one of the hardest guys I know in government. And, we would bang this out. My kids would be in the background watching TV or somebody working from home. So my kids would hear this. My kids would probably give a decent presentation on this, to be honest with you, from the osmosis. But he put in the time, and then we drafted something together. Got him connected with the sponsors. The sponsors confirmed what their legislative intent was. And then that part got redrafted on the tax side, which was that tax would be half of what it is today. And it wouldn't work except for that Excel sheet that Lázaro Solis showed me that one random Friday at like 6:30 or 6:45, where literally I told him, Lázaro, I don't know if you're in the office, but I'm going to get a bottle of wine. I'm dying right now. It might have been at like 7:30 when that happened. And he was still in the office. I mean, that guy works. He's unbelievable. And so we started going. If he wouldn't have shown me that Excel sheet at like 7:30, none of this would have happened. And so we drafted that language. And then on the zoning side, we really rolled our sleeves up. And the first thing I did was Dan Goldberg, who was a City of Miami zoning director at the time, he was a former colleague of mine at Bilzin. And I love Dan Goldberg to death. You better, where's the camera? You better come with me again this Christmas. We're going to do another Peking duck again. We got to bring that back as our tradition.
That's great.
It's an inside joke.
Dan's a character.
He's a great dude. I love him to death. And so I was at City Hall one day and I called him. I go, you here? And he's like, no. I go, listen, I need to talk to you for like 30 or 45 minutes right now. It turned into an hour-long conversation. I go, Dan, this is a real opportunity for the city of Miami to become a leader in the most affordability crunched city. We are ground zero for this problem. So we walked through it, a lot of it, and we had many follow-up calls. And he came up with he put together this interpretation that we had many calls on to finalize. And after him, I go, man. After that, who knows what's going to happen, because it had to go through the city attorney's office, the city manager's office. The interpretation ultimately went to the commission, planning, zoning. I'm like, man. I spent some time with Dan. I really hope it works out, because I think this is really important. Next thing I know, like legal signs off on it, the manager signs off on it, the planning, zoning, everybody signs off on it, the elected officials sign off on it, and boom, we're rocking and rolling, and we hit the ground running with Live Local in the city of Miami. And then I go, wait a second. I call the county and I go, Nathan, can we sit down? I got to really walk you through this thing. And they have an incredible amount of patience to listen to me talk about this state statute and how valuable it would be, because people think, well, this is preemption. The cities don't like this. And in reality, we have such an incredible need for it that look, we need tools. We have an unprecedented problem, and we need unprecedented tools. And I will tell you, they were open to it. They were receptive. They understood it. The county didn't, challenge it. The city of Miami, they knew what the law was, and they interpreted it, I think, to their credit, incredibly well. And you have, I'll share you if you want to share this podcast. I have a map from Florida Housing Coalition, where like a heat map of all the projects, and they're down here because of those interpretations that we have. And I went back the second year, and I had the meetings again in the second year going through it. And now we can do bonuses in Miami-Dade County that originally they interpreted that we couldn't do. Now in the city of Miami, we got TOD projects that you can just do market rate parking. You can go down to zero if you want, if you're next to a train station.
This episode is brought to you by Built World Advisors. Yeah, that's us. We're not your typical commercial brokerage. We combine deep market knowledge with a media platform that actually connects to people doing deals: the developers, brokers, architects, and attorneys.
And let's not forget the investors, Ben. From warehouses in East Hialeah to off-market gems in Allapattah, we help you find value where others aren't looking. If you're tired of waiting for opportunities to land in your inbox, let's talk.
Built World Advisors, real estate for the people who get shit done. You can check us out at builtworldadvisors.com.
So are these projects actually getting built? I mean, how many?
That was my next question.
How many live local projects have actually broken ground?
So live local. There's some that have already broken ground because they were already.
How many have broken ground in Miami-Dade County, and how many have broken ground?
I would say probably like half a dozen projects have already broken ground here locally that I'm familiar with.
In Miami-Dade County.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. It's because they were already in entitlement, towards the end of entitlement, and we changed the project to allow for some additional component because it gave us development capacity that made perfect sense.
They had more than 70 units. You could get that tax abatement. It made sense. Yeah,
for a couple of different reasons. It just was perfect timing, and the project was there, and we changed it. But think about it this way. That law passed in summer of 2023. Okay, we're not even in summer of 2025 yet. So if that law passed that same day you started running with the project, you got to get your drawings done. Then you got to submit those drawings. Then you got to get we had to get the interpretations done in the first place. People are like, "What the hell is this thing?" We had to work to get those interpretations done in the municipalities of critical concern for our clients. Like I wasn't going to random cities. I was going to the ones that I knew because those were where my clients were, and then we had to get those interpretations done. Then we had to submit those projects and be like the guinea pigs for them. And then those projects now are in permitting. So you got to think, and it just takes time for these things. It's the natural cycle of real estate development. So if I told you we started working on a piece of dirt in summer of 23, you'd be like, yeah, you're probably going to start breaking ground, summer 25.
So it's about a 2-year period. So it sounds like
you're going to see a lot of these deals hit the dirt now.
Yeah, that was my next question. You think we're going to start seeing a lot of live local deals come out of the ground?
The deals that underwrite,
but do any underwrite?
I think so. I have a look. So
and here's another issue to like layer on top of that I've heard of is that a lot of construction lenders are having a hard time with the compliance on the back end when you're trying to make sure that people are compliant with the 120 AMIs.
Yeah. So two things, and I'll speak to the city of Miami more so. So the city of Miami has a floor plate restriction above the 8th floor it's always been a challenge for me that I've always wanted to meet, which is how do I get a project from 8 stories to 12 stories if it can underwrite? Because there are particular breakpoints in development. You have a 3-story walk up that's just stairs and surface park. Then you have a 5-story product that then you have at least 1 elevator in. But then after 5 stories, you really have to have multiple elevators because you can't have people walking up and down more than 5 stories. So you go to a 75-foot product that's about 8 stories, and you're going to have multiple elevators. Then after that, and then after that 75-foot comes in a bunch of life safety, fire sprinkler related issues. Then you can go up to 120, and at 120 you get an additional layer of life safety, fire related issues. And then it becomes like true full-blown high-rise, and structurally it becomes a completely different animal. So at each one of those stages, you have to look at the project and say, can this underwrite 3-story walk-up, 5-story, 1 elevator, 8-story, 2 elevators, beyond 75 feet, 8 stories with the life safety requirements and 12, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been difficult in the city of Miami to figure out how to go from 8 to 12 stories because they make you restrict the floor plate above that.
The step backs.
Yeah. And so it just becomes really expensive from a structural standpoint.
Especially if you're abutting lower zoning like T3.
Yeah, and so that's why it's a form-based code. It's a real challenge to make it efficient. So the city of Miami right now, God bless them, Jake, please, let's push it forward. Let's get it done. They're working on legislation to, reconfigure what the podium is to deal with that and allow us to kind of get from that 8 to 12 story world a little easier, or a little more than 75 feet, because they realize that between 75 and 120 feet from a cost standpoint, there's still a lot of opportunity there. And between an 8 and a 12 story building, there's not a mega difference. You're not going, full-blown big or high-rise. So we're trying to fix that, and it's been a pet peeve of mine to try to make it work. The reason why I tell you all this stuff is that most of these products that live local, I can tell you bring me a 75-foot product, and it's a standalone garage precast, that's going to work. If it's me working on the project, and we work with the right architects, and we make it efficient, and we get the tax exemption on the back end, we'll make that deal work. Once you pass 8 stories and you go to a 12-story product, we have to get over the hump of that inefficiency of the floor plate. Now, if we mixed in the right zoning category that brings over the height, we can get around that. We're working on getting around that right now.
T5 works well for that.
Well, T5 works well, but the problem is
there's no FLR limitation.
There's no FLR limitation, but you have the floor plate limitation. So until you get to T612, you're basically stuck with a 40,000-foot lot area restriction that goes to 70,000 feet at T612, and then all the T5s and T6s, you're stuck at these like a floor plate that's under 20,000 feet above the 8th story. So you basically say to yourself, let's say that between 8 and 12 story, I don't want to get so boring with this, but
we're getting technical. Sorry.
Yeah, I like this shit, though.
I mean, so let's say you want to add 4 floors. You want to go from 8 to 12 stories. You can add 4 floors, but the floor plate shrinks. So you're really limited to, 14 units for each one of those floors. So let's say 14 times 4, it's 50-something units that you just added. Okay, to do 4 floors, only add 50-something units, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Now I got to park them. I got to park these 50-something units. I got to put in like 70-something parking stalls. So that might be you might lose an entire floor of units in your podium to that parking. So the trade-off is lose an entire floor of units in the podium, replace it with parking to accommodate the units above that are more expensive to build. Yes, you get better views. So the increase in units when you lose the podium for parking never penciled out. So a lot of these live local deals are really 75-foot, 8-story deals.
Are we overbuilding parking?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
So one of the easiest low-lying pieces of fruit, low-lying fruit that we could do is reduce parking requirements.
You got to reduce parking requirements in the right places, and it typically has to be tied to transit and proximity to commercial corridors, and that's what the county did with the SMART plan.
If you had a magic wand, what would the parking requirements for these areas be that you just described?
The parking requirement 1-to-1.
1-to-1.
1-to-1 is what I would make the parking requirement. But closer to transit, if you're within the 15-minute, they call it the 15-minute city, walking distance to.
When you say 1-to-1, 1 parking per unit.
One parking per unit. Yeah. 1 parking per unit. But we have, and I'll repeat this, we don't have a parking crisis. We have a housing crisis.
Well, we have a laziness crisis too, right? Because people don't want to fucking walk a block or two.
Dude, it's too hot.
Look, don't tell me. I used to walk from 1 Biscayne to 75 West Flagler every day for court when I was in the downturn.
In a suit, probably.
Everyone fucking expects
in
a
a
parking
suit.
space.
I was in a suit
front of the fucking establishment.
I was in a suit.
Listen to the Minnesotan getting attacked by these fucking South Americans.
I was in a suit, tied up all the way to here with my suit, carrying my briefcase with all my documents. Sometimes the roller, litigation dork that I was.
I mean,
at
it
the
is
time.
what we signed up for living here. I get it.
You will. You're
gonna sweat.
You have to put shade trees. Okay,
Yeah,
stop it with the palm trees.
The palms
Thank
are
you.
brutal.
Stop it with the palm trees.
Tony,
Bring
we had
in
this
some
conversation
shade
with
trees.
Lombardi the other day.
Stop it with the palm trees. Bring in the shade trees. And look, you got to put anywhere near transit, or not just rail, but anything that solves that last mile. So Flagler, for example, does a 15-minute trolley. So anybody who lives on Flagler just jumps on the trolley and they're on Brickell, and every just walk downstairs and you grab the trolley. It's like the easiest thing on planet Earth. And if you're close enough to the river, then you have the trolley every 15 minutes, or you can walk to Brickell Station, which is, I've walked it. It's a 7.5 minute walk. You know, or most of the people just scooter into downtown. You know, I toured with a friend, a project the other day that they're doing. They do that's co-living with no parking on 8th and like 4th. And I go, well, how does people get to he goes, the trolley's right there. They go down every 15 minutes. And everybody else is just scootering in. And that's it. Or they work from home. I mean, it's like the simplest thing in the world. We don't need parking. This is
I guess it's the pain of turning into a small town into a big city. People are trying to figure it out.
Look, there's a psychological component to it. I lived for a while in downtown Dadeland. I would walk downstairs under a colonnade, take the Dadeland station train, and it was 11 minutes like clockwork. Bang, bang, bang to get to one Bayfront where I was working at the time. It was the easiest thing in the world. If I drove from Dadeland, this is almost 20 years ago, it was a 45-minute drive.
Oh, it's brutal, yeah.
I don't know what that drive is today.
Probably worse.
It's probably worse. My wife convinced me to move to Pinecrest now, so, you know.
So you got to get a boat.
I don't know.
Is John Sumberg still metro railing it in every day? No?
John's in the office. But Brian Bilzin's in the office.
But he usually takes the metro in, doesn't he, John?
He lives in High Pines over there in South Miami. So
yeah, he told me
I've trick or treated his house a bunch of times. The first time I trick or treated his house, I didn't know it was his, and he came to the door, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a second, what is this?"
Sneak attack.
He's like, Anthony, can I help you? I'm like, I'm here for candy. I'm here for your candy.
We're gonna TP your house.
Yeah. But if it was up to me, I would do 1-to-1 at the most. And then you have to make a case for it with the lender, and the lender has to underwrite it. It's not like these crazy developers are going to go do this.
But that's the issue too, right? Is the lender, right? Because the lender won't.
The lender's always the issue. Yeah.
That's the lender. The lender in an urban environment, like 1.25, 1-to-1. Look, it should have been 1-to-1 in the first place. Originally, the Miami 21 was 1-to-1, and then they changed their mind at the last minute to 1-to-5. It was like this crazy story at City Hall. It was just, let's make it 1.5.
Just for shits.
Yeah, it's a long story. There's not enough time on this.
But at the end of the day, it's really the lender that's going to decide, right? Because
the lender will decide. And look. So
but that's unfortunate. But it's the reality.
So like a sneak peek into my world outside of just the entitlement stuff for the clients. You know, we're doing value add and we can't buy anything anymore. It doesn't pencil because people are bringing money over here not to make any money, but not to lose in depreciation internationally. And so I can't pay a 3 cap for a 60-year-old building that I still have to rehab, based off of telling me, it'll be a 5 cap after you spend $20,000 a unit. I'm like, that. Are you crazy? So
now you're just being greedy, Anthony. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I wish I can't sell that stuff. We own that stuff.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, are any deals actually penciling? Because I feel like equity markets now, because of where we are with macro environments, everyone wants to see a 7 yield on cost, and it's almost unachievable even with free land. If you really
infill, and you can justify the parking reduction and do a 75-foot product, you know, it's penciling out. Or if you have to park a little more, if you can get a parking reduction like 1.25, where you could just fit, you know, the podium stuff is hard. But if you can do some precast, standalone, attached garage, you know,
where you can buy,
we're making that work. And so I basically just like a year and a half or 2 years ago, I told my family, because we have to grow this portfolio. We got to figure out what to do. And either we start doing ground up stuff that I can identify from a zoning standpoint, or we got to go to other jurisdictions. And so I just started finding lots that I knew from a zoning standpoint could work, that were undervalued. And so now I just released CDs on a project on Flagler that's TOD. I was telling you this stuff because it's my lot, and so every 15 minutes there's a trolley going by. Everybody's going to have scooters. You're within a short walk of the Metro Rail station. I'm on Flagler and 5th, and we left. And since it's TOD and live local, I don't have to have any parking. But we're going to put downstairs 3 Tesla 3s through a company called Envoy, and it's a rideshare app only for your tenants. So the tenants are going to have 15 minutes. Trolley, scooter, walk to the train station, or if they really need, they're going to have a Tesla 3 downstairs that they pay the app for, ride share, and it'll be there at all times in the day.
That's kind of badass. Yeah. That's some futuristic shit in there.
It is. And so I happened to meet the guy, one of the founders of Envoy, because he wanted to meet the guy that knew about Live Local. And so one of my clients arranged the meeting, and he said, I want to meet this guy, Anthony Yurre. Can you arrange that? And this guy in this article. And I go, that's me. The guy starts laughing, and he goes, my friend goes, I was trying to introduce us. Well, we're here at dinner. And I go, I want to meet the Envoy guy. He goes, oh, that's me. And I go, well, then I guess you didn't really pay attention. You just came because he told you to come. But we're doing that deal, and, it's...
Is that Little Havana?
Yeah, it's Little Havana.
That's cool.
It's going to be a 70... So we're going to fit 112 units on a 15,000 square foot lot.
Wow.
No co-living, no micro units. These are regular size units. And it's going to be a 75-foot product. I mean, it's underwriting even without the tax exemption. Now, ultimately, I think the lenders are going to want a little more equity in the deal. So we'll be ready to do that. It's fine. But at the end of the day, we're underwriting it to what I'm renting 50-year-old product to.
But why do the lenders want more equity in the deal?
I think it's just because it's a different product. They might want me to give them a little more equity.
The parking...
And all bankers are scared today.
Yeah.
It's a herd mentality.
Yeah.
I really
scared.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I have some friend of mine that are bankers.
That's
I really don't
interesting.
know what they do every day.
Yeah.
They just see whatever all the other bankers are doing.
Yeah.
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 They're not there's no reward for entrepreneurialism.
Absolutely not.
They're
And there's
very much.
and you get chopped if you fuck up. So but
Now, do they want a deposit? Yeah, they want a deposit.
yeah.
So, these are deposit relationships. There are lenders that are underwriting Live Local deals. I know Ocean Bank for sure has underwritten a construction loan on that, and we're talking to a number of other lenders to do that. We've done a lot of sales recaps on bigger projects.
And your
they've
Little
underwritten-
Havana deal is a Live Local deal.
Yeah, it's a Live Local
And
deal.
is there any concern about ongoing compliance
In what regard?
in terms of like making sure people fit under that 120 AMI?
Not really.
Not really.
No.
Because I've heard that's an issue with some lenders.
I mean, 40% of the units have to fit under it for the zoning standpoint.
Right.
But I mean, we've done on the tax side now something like 12,000 units around the state. And it kind of breaks down like this. If you want to go to the lender and say, take 75% of my property tax. I had this call with one of the biggest lenders in the country, and they wanted to have a call. So we had all their folks in Boston and New York, and there was like, I don't know how many people in this Zoom call where I didn't know what questions were going to be asked, but it went to, that specific question. And I go, well, let me pull it back a second. If you get a deal that's the underwriting says on the line item for taxes, take 75% off because I'm going to do a Live Local deal, reject that project. That doesn't make sense. You're not going to do 100% of the units income qualified and take 75% off your property taxes. Now, let me help you. I will show you how to diligence a deal so you can properly underwrite it just like anything else. You have to take the insurance at a number after you diligence it. You have to take the taxes at a number after you diligence it, just like anything else. So what you're going to do is, depending on what submarket you're in, if you're in a submarket like certain parts of Miami-Dade County, Hialeah, you're not in Wynwood in a super luxury area, you're going to get close to 50% to 75% of the units that are going to qualify. And you're going to have the people from those markets be income qualified. It's not going to be a problem. Now, if you want to go in the wrong area, like Wynwood for Live Local, it's going to be harder to qualify those folks. So Wynwood would probably qualifying, I don't know, like a third of the units. But in a 300-unit building, when I can qualify 100 units and the tax savings are like $5,000 a unit, that's $500,000. That moves the needle on a $100 million deal significantly. But I would say you're going to at least get a third of the units in, no matter where you are. On an average area, you're going to get half of the units in. And if you're in a more of a workforce area, you're going to get, more like between 2/3 and 75% of the units in, because you'll have that pool of tenants. Now, keep in mind, the 120 AMI has increased 10% per year on average for the last 4 years. And the median income has increased since 2021, almost 50% as well. So that's significantly expanded the pool of tenants, and that's pretty much across all major MSAs, Miami-Dade County, Broward, Orlando, Tampa. So the pool of income has expanded significantly as well. The only comment I've gotten from a client after all these thousands of units is one that said, listen, lease up is going to be a little slower, just to give you an FYI, if you try to do the whole building. His market is full-blown workforce housing. But he also has almost 600 units in this project. And I go, well, what do you want to do? Why don't you just have some market rate units and you'll slide them over? And he's like, no, Anthony, I'm not telling you that. I'm not an idiot. I'm just telling you, lease up's a little slower. So I'm still going to shoot for 100% of the building. So we ultimately stabilize it close to like, over 85%, somewhere in that ballpark, income qualified tenants. So you can imagine, and that was a Miami-Dade County deal of almost 600 units. I mean, his number is going to be
solid.
Yeah. So the biggest one I've done is, I think, still the biggest one in the state so far. I got $1.4 million tax exemption on a deal in Broward. And then, they're going to recap that now.
Wow.
I don't know what even if you underwrite that at like a 6, it's still a lot of cheddar.
That's some money. Cheddar biscuits.
Cheddar biscuits, yeah.
So what's next? You going to just keep hammering down? Like, are we building more buildings, more law? Like you?
No, I think what's next right now is to wait for July 1st to get the new Live Local Act passed, and it's again they're components of a larger. I hate calling it Live Local 3.0, but there's more housing, there are more opportunities for housing in
it's
there.
a work in progress, yeah.
Than just Live Local, but that's going to kind of that law closes the loopholes in a lot of the gamesmanship that was going on with the local municipalities, primarily saying things weren't mixed use or saying, oh, well, you don't have to go to public hearings, but you have to go to before the commission, but you have to go to a public hearing before the city manager, and then he decides, like crazy oddball things like that. So now we define what mixed use is, what commercial industrial is, so you can't play games with that. We're explicit as to 0 public hearings, fully administrative. We don't care if it's a quasi-judicial or otherwise, no public meetings or hearings whatsoever. Those were, 2 of the big things. And then on the tax side, they're still going back for special session to figure out the budget. They have to get a budget together by July 1st. And part of that is a tax package. And in the tax package is a change to the Live Local tax side of it to get rid of the opt-out that these areas can have, to give the comfort to the agencies, to FHA and HUD and everybody else. So if they get the comfort, the opt-out's not there anymore, then that's the biggest hurdle they face for underwriting the Live Local deals. That and the fact that it's a 3-year period of time without a covenant. But if you get the zoning benefit, you have a covenant anyway, so they seem to be more comfortable with that. And there's also, they also have this concept called voluntary inclusion, like a voluntary inclusionary, voluntary affordable covenant that you can proffer. And that's something we've discussed to deal with that as well. So it's all about, just like everything else, education with the cities, education with the lenders. You start with the entitlement, you move to the lenders now, and work it. Once that gets passed, hopefully the opt-out gets stricken, then we're going to go back to FHA, show them the new law, and work on that. And then I would say after that, the city of Miami has really gone through their code, and they want their code to be more competitive with Live Local and more competitive with rapid transit zones of the county. So they have proposals on the table now. One of them went to commission today about expanding transit nodes, number one, or dealing with the podium and making it more reflective of what the real world needs to see from a construction standpoint to actually build these units. We're talking to the county about doing the same thing as well at the county. So it's just, take the legislation we got at the state, then work with the main municipalities to work on their legislation to make it more workable, work with the lenders, get them more, educate them on underwriting the deals, and then just continue to work on getting these tax exemptions. Me personally, getting that Flagler deal done, getting a spec house that I have done, get my kids, cranking in school, go to summertime, no more homework, thank God. I look forward to summer more than my kids do now. And I think, and then also at the office at Bilzin, I think it was like almost 5 years ago, where we had some real serious meetings in the office about, what pieces were missing of the puzzle pre-COVID and who was being treated well. Some people during COVID treated their attorneys poorly and really squeezed people. Other people saw it as an opportunity. And, our managing partner, Al Dotz, and our executive committee got together with all the, the heads of the different practice groups and said, do you think this is, door A, door number one, or door number two? I go, this is an opportunity that we need to take advantage of. And we grew our practice group. We brought in a full team of affordable housing, like true big A affordable housing. We brought in an entire construction team, which is, those guys, I can't say enough about the construction team. You want to, I'm responsible basically until construction starts, and then I hand it off to my construction team, and they are unbelievable. That's the one part of it that's like a black box to me. I can't control the construction stuff, but now I have them on the team. They joined, within that period of time. So it's been incredible to see our group, and just as much as possible, bring clients in and show them the difference between, Frankensteining multiple firms together to do different things, and saying at the onset, it's going to be me and like Howard Nelson on the environmental, and then my team will continue to work with you on this project. We'll get Joe Hernandez on the financing. We'll get Josh Kaplan on the JV agreements, no matter how exotic and crazy it is, and pref and mez money and EB5 or whatever it might be. Then we'll get Felix Rodriguez on the construction side, and everything will be done and everything will be turnkey. And then we build better relationships with the clients. That's my ultimate goal for the rest of my practice, is to have less, a deeper, more turnkey relationship with folks.
Well, listen, really appreciate you joining us today. I think you bring a very unique perspective in the fact that you're also developing, you're deep in the trenches, you understand so many parts of the transaction that I think other attorneys don't. I think it's invaluable. So love your perspective.
I appreciate it. And look,
thank you, Tony.
There are a lot of people in this world that have to make this work. There's so many people that go into this craziness of real estate development. I think we're all a little bit a glutton for punishment, but I think we do it also because we really love the community we're in, and we want to see Miami flourish and continue to progress. And it's all about the real estate down here. We are, they say Silicon Valley, we're Silicon Beach for real estate development. All the crazy things that we have down here, people don't realize. Dayland Mall was the first open air mall in the entire United States. It's closed there now, but Alan Morris built that. And then that was Alan Morris Sr. Alan Morris Jr., who also is my client. Now Spencer Morris runs the company. Sawgrass Mill was another experiment in craziness to have a mall that was a target to come down here. And same thing with Aventura, developed as its own community. Like we are the hub for a lot of innovation in real estate. So
Miami's the center of the universe, baby.
We all play our little role in it, right? And
That's right.
And if I can help out and bring some of these more of these projects online, I'm happy. We have enough. We have somebody told me the other day, we have more Ferraris in Miami than Italy.
I believe it.
For sure.
I don't know if that was a fact or not.
It has to be a fact.
But we also need, at the end of the day, the quality of life is not just, billionaires and high rises. The quality of life is when you get sick, is there a nurse there to take care of you? When you call 911, will there be a police officer there? Teachers in school, are they going to be there? Are we going to be hemorrhaging teachers? My kids go to public school, and it's a real problem. So I feel like, to an extent, if I could do something that creates something better for the community, I'm not saving lives like a doctor. Unfortunately, I decided not to become a doctor, but this is the best I can do.
Love it.
Love it. Well, thank
All
you,
right,
man.
thanks, Tony.
Great to chat with you.
Sorry if I hope I wasn't too long for you guys.
No, not at all.
The camera ran out of battery.
It's all right.
We outlast the camera sometimes.
All right.
All right, thanks, Tony.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers.